Welcome to the August 25th Henry County Commissioners meeting. Would you please stand for the pledge and a short prayer? Heavenly Father, we ask you that you preside over this meeting, and we hope that we have a meeting that is pleasing to you. We ask you to watch over our nation and this county. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Commissioner Plummer is under quarantine right now, but as you can see, she is with us. So all votes tonight will be as a roll call vote because she is not present. First order of business, have the commissioners had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second. Did you hear me, Ed?
Plummer, yes, I heard the second.
Okay, sorry.
I'll vote on accepting the minutes. Commissioner Plummer,
Aye.
Commissioner Dellinger,
Aye.
and I will say aye. Minutes are accepted with a vote of 3-0. Have the commissioners had a chance to review the payroll?
Make a motion to accept payroll.
Second.
I vote to accept the payroll. Commissioner Dellinger
Aye.
and Commissioner Plummer.
Aye.
Motion to accept payroll passes 3-0. Have the commissioners had a chance to review the claims?
I'll make a motion we accept claims.
Second.
I vote to accept the claims. Commissioner Dellinger,
Aye.
Commissioner Plummer.
Aye.
Vote to accept the claims is 3-0. First thing on our agenda is a tourism report from our EDC.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Penny York, Newcastle Henry County Economic Development. So I just want to start with a brief update about the EDC. As you know, we've gotten a lot of traction with our EPA grant, and we are to the threshold where we will be out of funds fairly quickly. So our consultant has planted the seed about reapplying for more grant funding. And so it looks like in the next probably month or so, we will decide about that. Henry County, the City of Newcastle, and Spiceland are our current partners, and we will probably see if we can work with that again. So I just wanted to let you know that will be coming down the road. I think the applications are due this fall, and so we will likely be working with Chris Shaw with SME again. So just wanted to put that on your radar to think about. Any questions about that? Okay, so I'm here this evening now with my tourism hat on. As you know, EDC is now working with tourism. So formerly the Henry County Convention and Visitors Bureau is now Henry County Destination Development to align with the new vision of Henry County and the state. The state is now marketing their efforts under destination development. So we hook to that. And so CVB is no longer known as CVB, but Henry County Destination Development. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. The second part is I have a more active role in tourism now. I still do economic development and site visits and all those kinds of things, but we have added this into our capacity. So I'm your employee, but I'm also working in tourism. So I've been active, excuse me, with Christy Regal from Whole Heart Communications, which will be visiting with you next. And so we have been working on branding our community, which is a process where we look at our assets and we recognize what are some of the natural assets we have. And so we have come up with a new brand that we are leaning into. And so you are the beginning of our county tour, going around to different communities to tell you about it, hopefully have your support, and just make you aware of our branding process. So we're visiting Knightstown, Spiceland, Middletown. We'll visit the city and their meeting, and then we started here tonight. So anyway, Christy Regal does the marketing. She's a marketing arm of the tourism operation for us. So I will introduce her. We work closely with her, and she has a few things to tell you about, a few more details we're working on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny, and good evening, everyone. My name is Christy Regal, as Penny mentioned, and I've had the honor of, alongside the rest of our team, working with an expanded team of brand champions. And these are folks from all over the community, and they have come together to help develop, to research and develop a brand for Henry County's tourism efforts. This whole process started with an extensive survey done earlier this year, and we had a great response from that survey. That allowed us to determine what assets we have here in the community already, and what can we find. One of our goals was, what can we find that makes us unique and makes us stand out, makes us different from other communities. I mean, we have wonderful parks, we have wonderful trails, but those aren't really unique to, I mean, there are those assets exist other places too. So our brand champions worked very hard. They had 2 4-hour sessions and also did research on their own. And it was identified through looking at our assets and looking at feasibility that our brand would need to be centered in basketball, which I always like to tell people I'm a football mom, so that was a little hard on me, but that's okay, because it's about the community. But the brand promise is really where we're going. And so I wanted to read that brand promise. This isn't really something that we're going to put on a website or anything like that. It's just to kind of remind us as a brand team, as the destination development folks, and even as us as a whole community, where we're going. And so I'm going to read that to you. With iconic sites like the Hoosier Gym, the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, and the world's largest high school field house, Henry County, Indiana is made for basketball fans. Families, travelers, and history buffs can find enriching, entertaining, and recreational experiences throughout the county and make memories that last a lifetime. The brand champions had some guidelines for us as we worked with our brand developer, which was Gambro Creative out of Middletown. They said this: the basketball obviously needed to be included in our logo, in our slogan. The logo needed to have a nostalgic feel. Henry County, Indiana needed to be incorporated in that. We needed to focus on clarity and not cleverness. Sometimes you come into a logo and you find someone has to explain it to you. We didn't want that to be the case here. We wanted it to be easily replicated on apparel and signage. And so I'm going to have Penny unveil our logo here. So the theme being basketball lives here in Henry County, Indiana, and we're very proud of that theme. As you can tell, the shape of it is in the shape of a backboard. That is something that we will carry out throughout the branding be that, having special backboards throughout the community, having our tourism kiosks have backboards around them where we showcase all of our brochures and print materials. So that's where we've been, and where we're going with this is we are developing a website that is honestly going to be our new home. As you know, there used to be the yellow building that was out on State Road 3 that used to be the home of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. But in today's era, most people, if they're visiting a community, they will want to visit it ahead of time, and they will want to do that online. And so we are going to be developing a website. We'll have multiple ways to get to it, but the primary landing page or the place to go, it will be called hoopsandhenry.com. Don't go there now because there's nothing there yet, but we're working on that. We're developing an email list growth strategy. We're working with our destinations to get them on board with the calendar platform that we implemented at the beginning of the summer. We're also looking to have a presence at local homecoming events. So we're very excited about the process and what's going to be happening. What I'm very excited to announce to you tonight, too, is that we have a agreement in place with Propeller Marketing to do work. Our company does not do large-scale websites. So we were able to work with Propeller Marketing. This is an outstanding agency that all they do is tourism marketing for the state of Indiana. So they do develop the Visit Indiana website. They have developed multiple sites throughout the state, and it was within the budget set for us to work with this company. And so basically, the top of the line that's available, that's what we'll be using, and it's going to be phenomenal. So we're also working with a local photographer to capture photos so that we can make sure we represent not just basketball, because just because basketball is our brand doesn't mean that we're not going to incorporate other aspects. Clearly, we have wonderful basketball assets, but we want to fill the rest of the time that people come to visit here with other things that we have. And I could stand here for the rest of the night and list what those are, because there are many. And like Penny said, we're on our way. This is the first stop in our tour. We'll be back here tomorrow night talking to the council, and we look forward to sharing more about this throughout the community. Thank you.
Well, the Regals, aside from football, were also, I think, involved in wrestling.
Wrestling, too, yes.
I don't know if it's too late, but would it be possible to put an arm around
there
the
you
basketball?
go, yeah. that may be the best way to sell it to my sons, but yeah. But yes.
Think about it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Do you have any questions? Bobby?
No, Debbie sent me a picture of it so I could see what it looks like. I don't have any questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Next order of business, we have an agreement to renew the contract with Humana for our Medicare Advantage plan for the employees of the county, and I believe also some of the retirees for the county. I don't know if they're on the Medicare Advantage plan or not, but it's, I think, a pretty good deal. The rate over the last 3 years, I think we're doing pretty well, because in 2020 it was $372.42, and the base rate in 2021 was $367. It went down a little bit, and this year it's only $378.73. So, you know how insurance costs are going up all the time. I think we are still doing fairly well. Any questions about this plan? If no, do I have a motion to accept this plan?
So moved.
Second.
I am in favor of accepting this plan. Commissioner Dellinger,
Aye.
Commissioner Plummer.
Aye.
Humana plan is accepted by a vote of 3-0. We have an interlocal agreement between the great town of Cadiz and our highway department to sell patch materials to the town of Cadiz. It is just convenient to do it that way because we have the buying power, and then Cadiz can buy it from us as a county. Any questions about that?
You got enough material, Joe?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I asked Joe if he had enough material.
Oh,
And did he shake his head or did he say yes?
He shook his head.
Okay. Thank you. I'll make a motion to accept the interlocal agreement between the highway department and Cadiz.
Second.
I will vote in favor of accepting that agreement. Commissioner Plummer,
Aye.
Commissioner Dellinger.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. We have several quotes for doing different types of work. First one is from Custom Electrical. It is to put in a RAVOS surge protection unit at the YOC building. Reason we are doing this is every time there's a power outage, or just about every time, in that building and also in the Justice Center across the street, when the power comes back on, we seem to have sometimes very expensive repair bills for equipment, I guess very sensitive equipment that we have there, and the surge in electricity when it comes back on ruins that equipment. So we're attempting to, although this costs $5,800, we have had some bills. Sometimes they are reimbursed by insurance, which is good. But it's still kind of a waste every time we have a power outage that we have massive bills that have to be turned into the insurance. So we are looking at installing this surge protection equipment at the YOC. Any questions or discussion?
Debbie, where would we be able to, what fund would we be able to take this out of?
Yeah, I just want to know where we're taking it out of.
What fund we could take it out of? CCD?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I know that we are potentially looking at changes at the YOC, but in the meantime, I think that this is my personal opinion is this is a good investment. While it's expensive, it will potentially save us money in the future. So I will make the motion to accept this quote for $5,800 to install the surge protection device.
Second.
I will vote in favor of this. Commissioner Dellinger,
Aye.
Commissioner Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes to accept the bid from Custom Electric of $5,800 to install surge protection equipment. Next item we have is a bid from Piney Engineering, who does most of the work in the building we were just talking about. They also do most of the work across the street in the Justice Center. And we have a bid of $843 to remove and replace worn pump flex coupling on hot water heating pump number 1 and realign the motor and check for vibration. Any discussion or questions about that?
No, this will come out of building. Oh, sorry, Steve. I'll let you move on.
Go ahead.
I'll second it. I'll second it. I was just going to say this will come out of the building corp fund
Yes.
and not out of the general fund. Yep. So I second that.
I will vote that we accept this quote. Commissioner Dellinger,
Aye.
Commissioner Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes to accept Piney Engineering's quote of $843 for the repair work in the Justice Center. Motion passes 3-0. We have also a quote from Lynn Purdue Professional Home Services on replacing the this courtroom's air conditioning system. The 2 units are in the back of the room. One has not worked for several years, and we have been getting by on using just 1 unit. To fix 1 unit is $9,603. To fix both systems is $18,246. And I will make a motion to table this until the next meeting, because I believe we just have 1 bid for this, and I would like to at least have another person look at it.
I'll second that.
I will vote to table it. Commissioner Plummer,
Aye.
Commissioner Dellinger.
Aye.
Motion to table proposal from Lynn Purdue Professional Home Services until at least the next meeting, passes 3-0. We're now ready for any department reports. First on the list is our Henry County Health Department. Angela Cox, do you have any report? And I know we spent a lot of money on this sound system.
Pardon me?
I know we spent a lot of money on this sound system, but unless you speak right into that microphone, I have a hard time hearing you.
Okay. I will do my best to enunciate and speak plainly.
You're sounding good now.
Do I sound good now?
I
Okay.
hear you.
Thank you, Debbie, and thank you for allowing me to give you this updated information. I apologize. I'm going to throw a lot at you this evening. A lot's been going on. I'm going to start out with the fact that on Monday, my department had a meeting with all 5 school district superintendents, a representative from their school boards, their school nurses, and several things were discussed. I was joined by Dr. Bricker and Dr. Hilbish, both pediatric doctors here in this community. Dr. Hilbish is the head of our pediatric department for Henry Community Health. Dr. Bricker is a hospitalist, meaning she cares for children in the hospital setting. And she also works at Peyton Manning's Children's Hospital. So some of the information I'll be relaying has come from them. I am presenting this information at the behest of all of the local school boards because the position that they are currently in is bad. So, next slide, please. The first thing that we reminded them is that there are some important sources that support the CDC's guideline that are colleagues of both the schools and of county government, one being the State Teachers Association, and on July 28th, their president provided a statement, and I've made this available to all of you and to the press, but the president, Keith Gamble, is urging all schools across Indiana to adopt the full CDC return to school policies, which include that layered Swiss cheese approach of masking, encouraging vaccination, hand washing, distancing, following quarantine guidelines, et cetera. We also know that the United States Department of Labor and OSHA created an emergency set of guidelines on January 29th of this year that, when you say OSHA, that applies to all of us. And so schools are places of education, but they're also businesses too. So on those guidelines, they encourage the same things that I just mentioned. Those guidelines were updated on June 10th as CDC guidelines updated. They were updated on August 13th, again, when the CDC guidelines were updated to include a mask for anyone vaccinated or unvaccinated in a building. Okay. While she's pulling that up, let me just throw some other statistics at everyone. I've been in communication with Henry Community Health Chief Nursing Officer this week, and my Monday morning phone call was not what I wanted to hear. The hospital at that point in time had 16 positive COVID inpatients with 1 pending. And today, about 48 hours later, they still have 15 of those COVID patients that are inpatient, 1 being on a ventilator in the ICU. The disturbing thing that I received that morning was that she said, our overall hospital census is the highest it has been in months. This is the highest number of inpatient COVID that they have had in months. And what prompted my call and my email to the legislative body, she said we couldn't send people out. We did not have a bed within District 6 in our major hospitals that employ a pulmonologist and the experts that are needed to take care of these critical patients. I have mentioned in the past year that really is always our red flag, and as emergency preparedness goes in District 6, we look at that very closely. So I immediately called Rick Brown, which is my emergency preparedness liaison for District 6. He confirmed that, and the hospitals, as always, are working together greatly. And Dr. Bricker, as I mentioned, works with Peyton Manny's Children's Hospital, and in her presentation on Monday stated that they are now in surge staffing. And what that means is that they have pulled in everybody that they possibly can. It's all hands on deck. Nobody gets a vacation. And they are hiring agency staff. They're pulling staff from other units and outside to help staff that facility. Which it's a mirror if you look at any of our major critical care hospitals in District 6 or across the state. So, okay, next slide, please. Finally, the other thing that we mentioned to our school colleagues is that we had a joint statement that was released on August 13th from the Indiana Academy of Family Physicians and the Indiana chapter. Debbie, I can't quite read that. Can you read what that says? The AA?
I can't read my printed copy either. So it's just I don't think it's the thing. I can't read.
Oh, it's the Academy, the Academy of Indiana chapter of the Association of Academy of Pediatrics. So both of those, nationally recognized programs wrote a joint letter pleading for people to follow the full extent of the CDC guidelines. Next slide, thanks. So the one thing that both physicians wanted to impress upon everybody is that we're not fighting the same virus that we were fighting a year ago today. We have a variant. It is mutated. It has gotten stronger, meaner, uglier, nastier. So last year this time, one person who was positive for COVID-19 infected 2 other people. This year, with the Delta variant, one person with COVID-19 is infecting 5 other people. The information to the right have been taken from Indiana Department of Health slides that my office gets updated with at least twice a week. So these are from August the 10th. So the Delta variant is accounting for 95.6% of the sequenced cases in Indiana and responsible for the current outbreak and surge that we're heading into, because transmissibility, it spreads more than twice as easily from one person to another compared to earlier strains. One person can infect potentially up to 8 or 9 susceptible people. That's about the same rate as chickenpox spreads. That was a point of reference because I think everybody pretty much knows that it's easy to get the chickenpox. Infectivity. Studies are showing that fully vaccinated people still can spread the Delta variant, and that is absolutely concerning to the medical world. They're not getting sick with it like people who are unvaccinated, but the viral load, the amount of virus that is residing in you is 1,000 times greater than what we were seeing last year. So those are responsible for those breakthrough cases with our vaccinated people. So we are in a race to increase vaccination coverage before another new variant emerges that is even meaner and uglier than the current. Next slide. So this again from August the 10th. This is direct off of what I get from the State Department of Health. So the COVID surge, average cases have increased 9-fold since early July. Hospitalizations are highest right now since they have been since February across Indiana. And here's the concerning part. Children and teen cases have jumped 84% in 1 week, the week of July 22nd to the 29th, 5 times what was reported since the end of June. Kids now account for 20% of the cases nationwide. The Delta variant is responsible for 93% of U.S. cases right now. Most people live in a substantial or high COVID transmission area, and that's the majority of Indiana counties. So that link right there is going to be the next slide. Our office has gotten several phone calls going, Angela, we're red, we're red. Well, this is the CDC's site for the United States, and if you'll see at the top, it says level of community transmission, and you can search by county. So if you look at our entire state is in red, it means that the level of transmission just out in the general community, in the general population, is peaked. So, okay, next slide.
How come none of those other states, I know it's not on there, but surely if our whole state is red,
It's the
those
Midwest.
surrounding states must have quite a bit of red.
Yes, they do. I just honed in on Indiana, but you're correct. It's that swath right down the middle in the Midwest. And so at the time of this slide was August the 12th, and so they were comparing, this is the advisory map that we go by that I have talked about for the last year. And you'll look that on the right, we still, the week prior to August the 12th, we still had counties in blue, which was great. We were yellow. And then in 1 week, this is what we transitioned to. We lost all of our blue counties. We increased our red counties by 5 or 6. And then Henry County, as you can see, turned orange that week. Yep. And this kind of got down to the nitty-gritty because we were asked, you know, Angela, it's not that we don't care what's going on outside of Henry County, but we want to know how this is really affecting us and our children in Henry County. So if you look to the left, you'll see that in January, this is the one thing that I can do as far as getting very specific into our numbers. I can go in and I can query a date and look at the total positive cases and then look at dates of birth and separate those out. In January, we had this is for the whole month, 923 cases. 83 of those were children. You can see February through July, kind of where that went. I'm not sure what was really going on in May, why we had so many positive children comparatively. But if you look, that last bar graph was for Monday morning. And so we had 524 cases, 176 of those were children under the age of 18. So in the last 2 days, I'm going to update that number. We have 622 total cases and 194 that are 18 or under. So we are not going down, we are going up. We are headed into a surge. Yep. So, and this was just a percentage, you know, what percent of our kids? So with that August the 1st to Monday, almost 34% of the cases that were positive in the county were children. And then this is where I kind of turn things over to Dr. Bricker and Dr. Hilbish. And, you know, we just wanted to include this statement about masks. Given what we know about the Delta variant, vaccine effectiveness and current vaccine coverage, layered prevention strategies, such as wearing masks, are needed to reduce the transmission of the variant. Dr. Bricker was able to provide us with some information from the University of Michigan that she felt was important and could be a tool in the toolbox for our school board members as they were making this very difficult decision. And so this modeling is showing that if one infectious child attends a class of 25 students, how long does it take for there to be greater than 50% chance of another child in that room getting COVID? So if you look up here, the model that they're working with says that in an elementary school, if we put them in school and nobody has a mask on, within 3 hours, each student has greater than 50% chance of becoming positive within that 14-day incubation period. They looked at it and said, if we put everybody in a mask, and we know how kids are, you know, they pull them down, they cough in them, they move them, they do whatever. Within 24 hours, so see, that's a significant, 21 hours, it's a slowing that down. That's 3 days worth of class. If we follow the complete and correct masking within our schools and provide that 3-foot distance that the CDC is recommending, it's going to take 120 hours for the probability of somebody within that classroom actually getting COVID. The numbers are a little steeper with the high school students, and I think a lot of that has to do with that age group. We saw more of them positive last year just in general, not so much our elementary kids. Let's see. These were just a couple of other studies regarding masks that they went through, and it wasn't just masks, but it was impressing upon everyone that it's going to take this layered strategy. You know, we needed to not put away all of the tools that we were using last year, cohorting our children. You know, if we put them in a reading group, then we kept that reading group with those children, those same children. And then that helps reduce the spread. It decreases the number of children that we have to quarantine and put on an e-learning platform. And this is just a great picture of, you know, that Swiss cheese layered event. First and foremost, we know that vaccination is working because 98% of the hospitalizations right now in Indiana are from unvaccinated individuals. We do have people who are in the hospital who have been vaccinated. However, it is less than 0.02%. So the numbers, they are what they are. Vaccinations work. Now, here's the problem. Not everybody in a school system is capable of getting that vaccine. It's not approved for our little ones. So it's our responsibility as faculty, staff, and the community to absolutely protect them. Okay, next one. And then those are the resources that we made available to the school boards. Let me give you a quick update on the District 6 and our bed situation, since I did make the comment that the hospital had trouble moving people out over the weekend. In District 6, which contains the 13 counties in East Central Indiana, we have 36.8% of our ICU beds are filled with very sick individuals who are not COVID positive. We have 32% of ICU beds in use that are COVID positive, which leaves us about 30% availability. That is a concern, and that is where everybody is raising the red flag. And you can't turn the news on without having seen physicians from Eskenazi, from St. Vincent's, everywhere in Indianapolis, our big players, begging people to help slow this. And this is really where we were coming from as a standpoint last year, because as a healthcare professional, we knew if we didn't get on top of it in the community, we were going to overrun our hospitals and our healthcare system. And if nobody has been watching what's going on in Florida, please, for the love of all that is holy, look at what is going on in Florida. This morning, there was a hospital where the physicians and the nurses walked out. I have no idea how they had the consternation to do that, because that is abandonment. But if they were pushed to the lengths that they are so physically and mentally exhausted of taking care of people who aren't even helping the situation, I just, please don't let that happen to Indiana, please. The number of vaccinated people in Henry County, I get that question a lot. So right now, according to the state website, we have 20,389 people who are fully vaccinated. That has plateaued. We ran straight up a hill in the beginning. I had the medical director over at Reed Health Services call me one day and said, "What are you doing? Why is it working for you? Why is it not working for me?" And I told him, I said, I have 7 nursing homes. I have a 3,000 inmate facility, state prison, and I have probably every group home this side of Marion County in here. So we had a highly vulnerable population. The upside to that was that we were allowed and able to give them the vaccine early on. So we got a lot of coverage, and I was very proud of that. And I'm still very proud of that, but we just stopped. So if you look at that, 20,000, our new, the number of eligible people in Henry County, and my number may be off 1 or 2 here, but according to the new 2020 census, everybody 18 and older, 38,294. That's the number of people that are theoretically eligible for this vaccine, 20,389. The difference is 17,905. So 18,000 people who are theoretically eligible have not been vaccinated. And let's say we take 10% or even 20% away from that number for those individuals who legitimately, for a medical reason, cannot get the vaccine. We're still looking at somewhere between 12 and 14,000 people in our county who should be eligible for the vaccine and have not chosen to do so. One more quick number. And this just came through Fox 59 just a minute ago. Indiana on Wednesday reported more than 5,000 new COVID-19 cases in a single day for the first time since early January, amid a surge of infections and hospitalizations. That comes just weeks after the state recorded pandemic lows. The takeaway is we are going to see another surge. I get asked all the time, when are you going to shut us down, Angela? When are you going to shut us down? Not going to happen. I am standing with Dr. Christina Box in her comment that for 20 months, the State Department of Health, the CDC, and every other professional healthcare organization has provided every United States citizen with the information about what they need to do to keep themselves safe. It slowed the whole pandemic over the fall, again, but at what cost? We're all still suffering from that. So I'm going to circle right back around to these kids again. I started my resignation letter Monday at 12:15. And it wasn't just simply the thought of resigning from this position. It was the thought of resigning from being a nurse forever. I am ready I was ready on Monday to walk away from healthcare. Because to come to work and to continually look at people and say, here are Indiana code that is backed by decades of science for communicable diseases. And then my office ends up being the bad guy. The governor, God love him, did it for I don't know how long. You know, he got death threats. My office has been threatened. I had a school threatened yesterday, minutes after the announcement went out that they were going to reinstitute masks. I have a trouble looking at these parents and these educators and saying, these little kids need to come to school in a mask. They can't read your lips, they can't learn, they can't hear right. And then they go home and they walk out into a community, and I'm not just picking on Henry County. Please understand, I'm picking on the United States at this point. They go home and then nobody does anything. So what is the difference? What difference are we making other than making them suffer, putting educators, people like myself, in danger of being shot because those are the kinds of things that are happening? It was either South Carolina or Alabama last week. Parents went to a school board meeting in masks. When they left, they were physically assaulted. I don't want that to happen in Henry County. I don't want that. I am working so hard to take the pleas and the requests and the how do we do this, Angela, from every school administrator and their school boards. I have done nothing. I have done nonstop since 12 o'clock on Monday communicating with Pam Patanis, who's the director, the deputy director, right under Christina Box. And she calls me back. I get conversation with her. I have communicated with Lori, who is the school nurse liaison for all of the schools in Indiana. And I've said, Lori, we're dying out here. So, with that said, I will end with this. It is every single human being's responsibility. It is not the commissioner's responsibility to sit up here and make a mask mandate. That shouldn't have never been put on you. That should never have been put on Governor Holcomb. The right thing should have been done from day one, and this politicizing over this is ridiculous. I don't like it. I hate it. I don't want to wear it. But I have 6 grandchildren who all last year I was unable to take one day off to help their parents keep their job so that I could help them with their e-learning. So I get a call yesterday from my daughter-in-law who is in tears because she's out of PTO. She has a fabulous job, and she's the one that holds the insurance for the household. Nettle Creek Schools went on virtual for 7 days. I feel her pain. I was right there when we collectively made the decision, Ron Green, myself, and the school nurse, with the data that we had, collectively made the decision to move Shenandoah to an online platform. I took today off, or I tried to take today off, to sit with my 9-year-old and my kindergartner to do their online school. I am so blessed to have 2 young ladies that get it. They don't have any inkling of a learning disability. We struggled because of the technology. They couldn't come to my house because I live out in the country, and my, it's not dial-up, but it's the country internet, whatever that is or is not. They couldn't come to me. I had to go to them because they live in town where they have high-speed internet. And I thought to myself, how many of their classmates that I know for a fact get on the bus that live 2 houses down from me? How are they home doing this? They're not. They are not doing it. My phone started ringing at 8 o'clock this morning, did not stop ringing until 11:30. I finally had to shut it off because I could not concentrate to get them both going. 4th grade kindergarten, there's a pretty good gap there. And this new math, let me tell you, a decimal is a decimal is a decimal. And I got met with new math going to the left, if you multiply to the left. I was like, stop right there. So, I love my job. I am going to continue to do my job. And I'm doing that because after I had that horrible day on Monday, and I cried. I called my husband and I cried. He said, I'm surprised it's taking you this long to get to this point. He said, I've fully expected you to quit long ago. And then an email came from one of my school nurses. I've got the 5 most fabulous school nurses in the state of Indiana, hands down. And I'd step in front of a bus for any of those 5. I got an email from one of them. She had this fabulous idea, and I was able to help. I was able to make that happen for her. And that's what I want to do. I want to make a difference. I want to be able to walk in here and make a difference. So, thank you for listening to my tirade. Thank you for the jobs that you do, because this is the first public position. I've always worked in the private sector, and the public is relentless. My staff have been cussed at, screamed at, threatened, and now, unfortunately, the schools are having to see what that is. And in fact, I am to convey an invitation to all 3 commissioners. At any point in time, any of the school districts would like to welcome you to come to them and help them contact trace and make those calls. 1, because they need help. 2, because they're hoping that it will put a few things into perspective. And I'm sure that they would probably extend that to others. But I have to advocate for them, and I have to advocate for these kids, whether it costs me my job one way or the other, whether you fire me or whether I decide to go. So, thank you very much.
Well, speaking for myself only, I hope that we do not see your resignation. It's hard to find someone as passionate as you are about this problem. I wish I could say there was a solution and people would stop calling you, but I don't know what that would be. There are people on really both sides, especially of this masking issue, and especially down in Florida. And you have the governor of Florida saying he does not like mandates, and you have the President of the United States. The governor is threatening to withhold funding from schools in Florida if they force kids to wear masks. The president is saying, don't worry about that. You got a bad governor, and we'll take care of you. So a governor is at odds with the president. So obviously we have the same thing here in Henry County. I don't know what the answer is. Last year, the way I look at it, we had all the doctors and nurses, and we had signs out on their lawns saying what great heroes they were. And I believe they were working in hospitals and clinics and doctors' offices where people come in and carry this virus. And this year, we have people threatening to fire them if they don't get the vaccine. Fire our heroes from last year if they don't get it. That is a very tough situation to be in. I mean, obviously, I think, and I don't know if you agree, but the reason we're having these surges, especially in kids, was school started up again. And it may go like that for another month or two. And obviously, when kids go to school, pick it up, take it home, it's going to spike the whole county. I don't know how long that would last, but we will find out. But I appreciate what you do, and I hope that you will stay on, because I know you would be a very difficult person to replace. And I know right now you're probably under more stress than is normal. Even though you went through last year, this is still a very tough time. We've got a variant. And last year, I don't know, but the idea was that if you got the vaccine, you were pretty safe, and I think you are reasonably safe of getting a very bad case. But it's only the last few months, and I'm sure they knew it before that, but the idea that a person who has been vaccinated can still carry the virus and can still give it to other people, which then, if you are not a whole lot different than a person who hasn't been vaccinated, because they can get it and they can still pass it on. And if you've been vaccinated, you can still get it and you can still pass it on. The only thing I've heard is that if you're vaccinated, you're much more likely to get a much milder case.
And that's the purpose, and you're exactly correct. The purpose of the vaccine is to get the end result of having it down to where it's managed. So you're correct. And so some people see that,
So there's,
vaccinated at all.
but there's really two debates going on. The vaccination and the mask, and how effective the mask is. So, and I don't think it's an easy one to solve, but I really appreciate your comments and keeping us up to date with the latest data. You guys have anything? Bobby?
Sorry, I had to walk away for a second. I had everybody in there. Angela, I appreciate everything that you...
Make any comments?
Yeah, I appreciate that you didn't quit, Angela. I know I talked to you on Monday, I think multiple times, so we'll just all figure it out together. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what... I wish that this wasn't as politicized as it was. I wish that people wouldn't judge people in the community, that if you don't have a mask or you do have a mask or you don't want the vaccine or you do have a vaccine, being called selfish or whatever. Nobody knows what what their particular situation is. So, it's just difficult, and I hope we can figure out something. And please don't quit.
Okay. Coroner, do you have a report or anything you'd like to say? You're up.
We've been pretty busy in the coroner's office. We've had 82 total deaths since January. And that's usually probably the average of a year. but right now, as of August, as of today, we've had 82 for the, since January. 3 of them were COVID-related, but the rest of them, the majority of them, were natural causes or accidents, and then some overdoses and so forth. And I'll give this same report tomorrow night to the council, but I did talk to GEO, their administrative office, and they did inform me that there was a couple of the other administrators that are actually working on paying the past invoices. So we may be able to get, what was it, $35,200 and something, $256 or something like that, that may be, fingers crossed, reimbursed to us. So just waiting. And all of our equipment, we've just been maintaining them and staying on top of things, and trying to make everything work in the office, and just doing what we're supposed to be doing. So that's kind of my report. So
I'm sorry, Stacy, I may have missed something. Any idea when we'll know about that amount of money? I know it's been since at least January that they've been working on it.
Actually, I sent out the invoices to GEO, oh man, April 18th.
Okay.
And
Okay. I was wrong. April.
It took us this long or that long for them to be able to compile the information that they needed for us to be able to create an invoice to send to them. So, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I did send everybody, and if you didn't get it, then please let me know, and I'll send you what I sent them.
Your report?
No, the invoice from the GEO death, from the prison deaths, from inmates for the last 4 years. So, like I said, fingers crossed if they pay us that. So, but any questions?
No, thank you, Stacy.
Not a problem.
Angela, I forgot to ask this while you were up there. Maybe you said it, but I didn't hear it. Have we got school-age children in Henry County hospitalized for COVID?
If we do, it is only one that I'm aware of.
I was just wondering that. Okay.
Yeah, we're watching that very closely.
Thank you. Highway Department, Joe?
Good evening. I have 2 items this evening. The first is NDOT's doing a project on State Road 103 next year, and it's from Newcastle North, and they've sent out one letter asking for a letter of understanding for an unofficial detour. Now, it's not an actual detour, but people are going to take different roads to get around this closure. So they let us opt which roads that we think that the people will take. You sign an agreement with NDOT that says that road, after the closure, we'll document the road before, and then we look at it after the contract's done for the work. Then we'll look at it and see if there's any damage to the road. If there's a damage to the road, then then they'll reimburse us. Okay? They wanted to use 200 North, going west off of 103. I contacted the Department of Corrections and asked if that's something that they could live with, especially with the prison being there. And they said, no, we would prefer not to do that. So we turned around and told them then make it 300 North for the unofficial detour. Now, part of Garner Street's going to be used also, and a portion of Garner Street is ours. So it'll be a small portion of that. So I have some agreements or a letter of understanding from NDOT about this 300 North and Garner Street unofficial detour. So, I mean, it's a good thing. We just got to make sure that they set the barricades up in the right location. And we may have to close 200 North to keep people off of it if the sheriff doesn't have a problem with it. So, okay. Here's the agreement. It's a pretty standard form that the state uses.
And you're pretty sure their state is going to go along with what we propose?
Yeah, I sent them an email telling them they should be using 300 North and not 200 North, so they come back with this letter of understanding with 300 North in the document.
Is there a time frame in 2022 that they're looking at doing this, and how long?
I'm assuming when weather breaks next year. I don't know when the letting date is. It doesn't say on this information that he sent. Just 2022 is all I know.
It's pretty broad.
Well, yeah.
Any questions about that, Bobby?
No. Just as long as it's not 200 North, I'm happy.
So you're one.
There's enough construction traffic that's with the jail and the prison and all of that would just congest that area horribly.
Yeah, if you're in agreement, I need you to sign the document,
We
the
have
letter of
to,
understanding.
we need a vote on this.
Yeah, I would.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to. Oh, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
You can second it, Bobby.
Okay, I second.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the letter of understanding to NDOT. And I have a second. I will vote to accept and sign this letter. Steve Dellinger.
Aye.
Bobby Plummer.
Aye.
Motion to accept the letter passes 3-0. What else you got, Joe?
While you're signing that, I got a proposal for a bridge superstructure.
So he can have one and I can have one. And that way there's not one floating around that's missing.
You can go ahead.
Okay. The bridge in question is Bridge 136, and it's on 850 east north of 300 south. Currently has a 10-ton load limit. There's a bad beam on the superstructure in the bridge. The problem is the consultant said that recommended we replace the beam, tear the deck out. It's not an external beam, it's an interior beam. It's what they call a spread box bridge. It has a slab on pre-stressed box beams, okay? And they recommended to tear that out. Well, I know the beam itself is going to cost us more than $20,000. I bought one in Madison County, and it was smaller than this, and it cost me over $20,000 just to have it delivered. By the time you replace the beam and do all the work, you're probably going to be in over $50,000. and you've still got the rest of the bridge, which is deteriorating. I believe it was built in 1970, I believe it was. So it's already got like 46 years on it. So what I want to do, instead of piecemealing the bridge, superstructure, I want to just replace the superstructure and get 40, 50 more years out of it, is the idea. I want to put back in a steel beam bridge, weathering steel, with a steel grid deck. All right, now, we've got a few in the county, and the problem, I looked into it, had Dale Stearns check for me. Amish run that road with horses, and this is a steel grid deck. Some horses are a little faint on walking over a bridge like this. So Dale went to a fellow over there and checked with him and asked him, you know, would there be any problem with horses? And he said he didn't think so, and it's because he said they may be a little squeamish the first time they cross it, but after that, he says they get used to it and they'll cross right over it. So he didn't have a problem with it. And Dale called, I don't know who it was he talked to, but he said he thought he was the mayor over in that area of the county. So he knows a lot of people. The cost for now this price comes from our annual bid that was bid by E&H Bridge and Grading and I think 3 or 4 other companies here for this year. The price was for the entire year. This includes some additional engineering, and it's not a standard size. It's 50 foot long, but the width is I've got to fit it inside the existing wing walls. That's the problem. So it's not a normal width. The price is $119,280, and that includes all the beams, the diaphragms, the steel grid deck, the on-structure rail and posts, and a transition piece from Thri-beam guardrail to regular W-beam guardrail. So most of it, the only thing we're going to do is we're going to tear out the old superstructure, the old deck and the beams, and then we have to reconstruct the south mud wall on the bridge. In other words, I had to go out and measure the bridge to make sure this would fit. The bridge is not square as it sits right now. The north abutment and the south abutment are not at the same angle. It's what they call zero skew, but it's off a little bit. So we're going to have to do some work on the south wall. It's the one that's out so bad. So
Just a quick question.
yeah,
You said the bridge was built in 1970 or so?
or I should be 80, not 70, 80.
80, so then it's only 41
46
years old.
Yeah.
Is that a normal life expectancy for a bridge like this? Or,
Yeah, let me go back.
I mean, the Brooklyn
Priest-
Bridge was built like way back there. It's
You
still
can
okay?
You can get anywhere from 50 to maybe 80 years out of a bridge, depending on how it's built and how it's maintained, okay, in my opinion. Counties, it's easier for the counties because they're not putting an enormous amount of salt and calcium chloride on the decks. It makes it easier. But back in those days, they didn't have inspections like they do today or NDOT has. The one beam that's bad has a bad crack in it. It's a longitudinal crack at about mid-span. That's not a good thing. And that's why they've given it the 10-ton load limit. So I would hope to have this bridge last. It's weathering steel, so you don't have to paint the steel. So I would hope to get another 30 to 50 years out of this, easy.
I was just trying to get an idea of life expectancy of this type of bridge.
Oh, the steel or just a pre-stressed?
Either one that we put in. I would have thought that that a normal life expectancy for a bridge would be longer than 40 years. But
I put in a large number of pre-stressed box beam bridges. And the problem with pre-stressed box beams today is that if cracks develop in those beams and the inspectors see it, the problem is they don't know what's going on inside the concrete. If air and water get in there, it can deteriorate that steel from the inside and you don't know it. There's a pre-stressed box beam bridge. I have a picture of it somewhere. And this all started with a bridge in Pennsylvania on I-70, over I-70. The beam dropped right on I-70. I had a picture of it. Bad, okay? So from that point on, they reevaluated how they inspect these types of bridges, the concrete box beams.
Okay.
Does that help? Okay.
So then, any other questions from the commissioners? If no questions, do I have a motion to accept this proposal from E&H Bridge and Grading Company?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Oh, okay. I will vote yes on this proposal.
Sorry, second.
Commissioner Plummer,
Aye.
Commissioner Dellinger.
Aye.
Motion to accept the proposal from E&H Bridge and Grading Incorporated passes 3-0. What, is that all you had?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Joe. While we're talking about the Highway Department, I just would like to let the public know that we are negotiating with Randolph County on a proposal to share Joe Copeland. It is hard to find an engineer that will work for what our counties pay. And engineer firms are very expensive. I think Joe's doing a great job here in Henry County, and Randolph County needs someone specifically to look at their bridges, and we are trying to come up with a deal where we can share some of his services. It's a little bit complicated, but we may have something. Steve Dellinger has been talking to one of the commissioners over there, just to let the public know that we are in negotiations to try and figure out a way that we can get a win-win situation out of this and still retain the services of Joe Copeland. We'll have more on that in future meetings, but for now, just to let you know that we are working on that. Steve, Russ, you have anything? Sheriff?
Just want you to know, we do have one case of COVID in the jail as of yesterday. Isolated at A block, they tested all the rest of A block. No one else tested positive. So we'll retest in a couple of days. Pretty much non-symptomatic, but nevertheless, it's there. We do have no security in their cell, and that cell block is isolated at this time. I tell you that because we probably won't be shipping anybody out, so we can see that number go up.
Yeah.
Hold it in place until we make sure that we don't infect other people.
At least you got experience dealing with that. Yeah, that was rough last year for a couple of months. Clerk, treasurer, anyone here from the park?
Yes, I'm here, Tracy. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just wanted to tell you a couple of things that we're doing. First of all, on Friday, the park employees are going to volunteer at the Second Harvest Food Bank. If there's anybody else in the government that would like to help us, they could use all the help they can get. They missed the first August distribution was on the 13th, and they didn't have anybody to help with that. So this Friday is going to be extremely busy. So if there is anybody, please contact me at the park so I can get your forms filled out and get you in on that also. On Sunday at 11:30, the Rolling Thunder has decided to make our park their, usually they have an annual run where they visit several. This year they've decided to come to Memorial Park and stay all day. So we will be giving tours of the different monuments, and they will be having lunch there with us, and then they will be in the park doing several different things during the day on their own. But if anybody would like to come out to that, they will be there. And then also they had asked if they could get the cannon fired again. So they made a contribution to the people who fire the cannon, and it will be going off at 11:30 also on Sunday. So we just wanted to invite anybody out. I talked to them today, and they wanted to make sure that the public, everybody knows they're invited to come out and spend the day with them out there. That's it.
All right, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the county have any report for the commissioners? New business. We have the 2022 holiday scheduled for county employees to approve. It is, I think, essentially the same as last year's, except that we have the addition of Juneteenth Day on Monday, June 20th. Any questions or discussion about that?
I'll make a motion to accept the holiday schedule as presented.
Second.
I vote in favor of approving the holiday schedule. Commissioner Plummer,
Aye.
Commissioner Dellinger.
Aye.
Holiday schedule is approved 3-0. Also under new business, commissioners in the very near future are going to appoint an Arp Committee, or possibly tonight, and also a committee for county employee policy. And Commissioner Plummer, would you speak to that, please?
Sure. So with the ARP, the federal funds, the American Rescue Plan, we have, I think we got I can't remember if it's 9.4 or $9.2 million. We've already seen the first half, and commissioners are tasked to create a plan for this. And I believe most, if not all, of the guidelines have been released. I would like to see the committee consist of the 3 commissioners, since we have to approve the plan, create the plan. And then also Council President Susan Hoon, Council Member Kenan Gray, as he has done a great deal of research on this project. Auditor Debbie Walker, as she's the one that's going to have to deal with reporting and minutes and all of those extraneous items. And then also the Treasurer, Bill Upchurch, to work closely with the Auditor's Office. That's how I see it. Sorry, getting a little tired. Set up. I don't know what your visions are, but that's how I see it.
Do you have any comment on that, Commissioner Dellinger?
I'm fine with that one.
I am also fine with that. If
Okay, so I will make a motion to create the ARP Committee with the 3 commissioners, Council President Susan Hoon, Council Member Kenan Gray, Auditor Debbie Walker, and Treasurer Bill Upchurch.
I'll second that.
I will vote yes on that. And Commissioner Plummer,
Aye.
Commissioner Dellinger,
Aye.
vote to appoint the Arp Committee, passes 3-0. Explain also, please, the Policy Committee.
So over the discussion of budgets and different things, and there's some other policy things that are a little outdated or need to be looked at. Not saying that anything is going to change drastically, but it's my understanding that the last time any policies were changed, there was a committee made up of employees. Pardon me, I believe Ann Bankson was, HR was one of them. I'm not sure exactly how we need to set this up. We may have to look a little more in detail, but I guess we could go ahead and create a committee and then figure out who we're going to appoint in that process. But I would request that no elected official, minus a commissioner or a council, but no department head elected official, no one running for elected office in 2022, and employees. Obviously, there may have to be a commissioner and a council member potentially on this committee, but that's how I see that being made. You know, do we reach out to each department and have somebody appoint or volunteer? We can look at that if you don't want to make a decision tonight. But I think that we need to start looking at various policies. And again, I'm not saying that anything's going to change or anything's going to be taken away at all. But we want the employees involved in any discussion where policy is concerned.
I make a motion.
And actually, I would appoint Steve Dellinger as the commissioner liaison to this committee.
He accepts.
Sorry, Steve. He accepts. Yeah. So, did he make a motion?
Yeah, I made a motion to table it for now, but
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
You are making a motion to table it?
well, since we were going to reach out to the different departments, I thought it would be appropriate to wait till we hear back, get feedback from who we're going to go. So I thought we'd wait till we got the feedback and some names into a pool to choose from. That was my only issue.
Okay, I will second the motion to table this. We have another meeting on the 8th, which isn't too far away. And between now and then, we could probably put names to this committee, or at least decide exactly where each person is going to come from. So I will second the motion to table this appointment until the next meeting. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Dellinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Plummer?
No.
I will vote to table it also. Motion to table the appointment of the Policy Committee passes 2-1. Next up, and I think looks like the last thing on our agenda, Ali Sexton from Next Era is here.
Yes, hello, good evening, everybody. Ali Sexton here. I'm a project developer from Next Era Energy, and I'm here with my colleague, Matt Johnson, to give a project update on the Greensboro Solar Project. So we'll also be answering some questions that we've been getting from the community, and I'll let Matt get started for us.
Thanks, Ali. So hey everybody, as Ali said, I'm Matt Johnson, one of the project developers for Next Era. Wanted to go ahead and tell you guys a little bit about the company. So we're a Fortune 200 company. We're the largest renewable energy developer in the world. but we also have an all-of-the-above approach. So we also have nuclear, natural gas, so big projects are not unfamiliar to us. One thing that we're looking at right now is called the Greensboro Project. So I want to go ahead and just relay some of the information. We had a booth at the State Fair, and I got to meet with some folks from Henry County. A couple questions came up, so I thought I would just go through a little bit about the housekeeping items there. So one of the things we got asked was, how do we handle our construction approach? The technique we like to use is called civil light. Civil light means that we're not going to disturb or bother any more than we absolutely have to. It's not
Can you
cost-effective.
just move a little closer to
Yes,
the
sir.
microphone?
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, apologies. So for civil light, we look to not disturb or bother any more than we absolutely have to. It's not cost effective, and we wouldn't be a good neighbor, and that's a key part of how we operate. So for instance, when we install a solar project, we run certain tests on soil, the other grounds, and what we want to look at is how deep do we need to drive the piles. So for instance, for a solar array, all we have are steel racking and piling that hold these in place. We drive the steel piles about 3 to 6 feet into the ground. Just depends on the soil compaction tests. So, for instance, there's not going to be any materials, concrete, or anything like that in the ground as well. Another question that we got asked about quite a bit, from not just Henry County but other places, was about farm usage. And I get that question. So we looked at the numbers, and the 700 acres that our project would have, what we call in the fence for where we would be operating, is right about 0.4% of 1% of the farmland for Henry County, and that's according to the USDA. That's farmland, not total land. So again, 0.4% of 1%. And then the final piece that we get asked almost every time is, what is the project? So the simplest way to overview that are by the numbers. So the 700 acres, again, 0.4% of 1% of the land, we'd be able to contribute about $23 million over the life of the project in tax revenue. We'd also be spending about $120 million on what we call capital expenditures.
What do you consider the life of the project?
It's a 30-year project.
30 years?
Yes, sir. So, again, to build it, we're looking at a $120 million investment. So that's going to have enormous impacts regionally and locally when you think about all the construction workers and everything else that's going to entail in about a year's time to construct the project. And then finally, we're looking at about 100 megawatts of solar energy. So more than enough to power Henry County, and you can pick a neighboring county as well. So it's a pretty neat technology, and for business development, we think that it's something that you could absolutely have in your tool belt. So that's kind of a high-level overview. I want to be mindful of time. I know it's late in the evening, so with that, I'll go ahead and turn to Allie. She'll give project-specific information, and then we can answer any questions. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you, Matt. So a few of the questions that we've been seeing on the project website and the project Facebook page. First is, so where is the project? We have been working on this project for a little over 2 years now, as far as working with landowners and understanding where there is interest in hosting panels and landowners that have interest to host panels. And that siting process is driven by the grid and where there is capability for injection of that energy onto the grid. So the siting of the Greensboro project has been driven by the Duke substation that is located right in the town of Greensboro. And our previous location was east of that substation in the Blue River Valley, which we received feedback that that location was problematic. There was prospective residential development and existing residences that were concerned with that area, and we have since moved west of the point of interconnect, and so we have interested in willing landowners to host the project west of the point of interconnect now. So that's one major update that's important for everybody to be aware of. We're completely outside of that Blue River Valley.
Do you have a map that we could have showing the actual location?
Yes, I do. I can distribute a project map that shows where we have that interested land, and part of that land process is still ongoing, but I'll pass around maps to you after this to show you that. Second is activity surrounding data collection on the project site that we have that has taken place over the past 2 months. So we have been collecting data on the soil, and so if you've seen or heard about any activity in the project site, it is a data collection process that we go through in any areas where we're considering or testing the suitability of a project. And what that data collection entails on the soil has to do with soil compaction. And so it is pile load testing, in which piles are driven into the ground in select locations across a prospective area. And compression is then added to those piles to test how much compaction the soil will undergo. And so that's some of the activity and surveying that you might have heard about or seen in that area recently. And lastly, a question that we receive often is, what is the height of the installation and what would this look like? And the technology here is a tracking photovoltaic panel, and what that means is the panel sits on a piling at a height of 5 to 6 feet, and so that panel will be tracking the sun as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, so it moves ever so slowly throughout the day to follow the sun and maximize energy production. So overnight, when the panels are in stow position and also at the peak sunlight of the day when the sun is directly overhead, that panel will be directly horizontal and at that 5 to 6 foot height. And as the sun is near the horizon, you'll see the upper edge of the panel exceeding that axis point when the sun is near the horizon. So those are a few of the questions and topics that we've been hearing about frequently. And we wanted to come here tonight. We appreciate you giving us the time as we're eagerly awaiting and interested in the draft ordinance that we know and have been following along in the process that you've been putting much time and energy into. So with that, we're available for any questions you might have. But thank you for the time tonight.
First, we'll see if the commissioners have any questions, and after that, if any other people present have a question, they can ask. The commissioners have any questions for Allie?
The pilings you're talking about, are they looks like a white plastic sticking up out of the field in various locations?
They're steel pilings that are driven in, and I'm glad you asked, because they're just temporarily placed in the land for the pile load testing. They're temporarily placed in a field so that compaction, in different directions and from above can be applied to the piling. And then after we have that compaction data of the soil, the piling is removed and disposed of.
Are they going to be removed in time for the affected farmers to be able to get their crops out?
Yes, and we are only able to do that testing in coordination with the landowners that are participating and have indicated their participation through a lease agreement with us. So the only data collection we do is with their permission and with their granted right of entry to their property.
And has there been damage to their crops in this process, and are they being compensated for that?
Yes, sir. There is, pretty minimal impact to the crops. We try to keep it as, tight locations as possible, and they're compensated for any crop damage, and that is all a part of the lease that they signed. I don't think they'd let us do it if we didn't give them their due for that work.
Do you have a power purchase agreement with somebody right now?
Yes, we do.
And who is that?
We have a power purchase agreement with NIPSCO, Northern Indiana Power and Service Company. So it is an Indiana-based utility that has purchased the power.
Have you contacted these non-participating property owners around to see what their feeling is right now?
So that's something that as we move, forward in the process of development, that's something that happens. We will host an open house to make sure that more of the community is able to hear about the project plans. But a lot of the message to those neighboring residents, a lot of the information of the development standards would be dictated by a county ordinance. So that's sort of a pacing item before we would take those steps.
I'm sorry, Allie, and I didn't hear the answer. Commissioner Tarantino asked if there was a map of the project. I didn't hear what you said. I apologize for that. Is there maps available for this project?
Yes, there is, and we'll make sure you guys get that.
We get copies of it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Are there any members of the public that would like to ask a question or make a comment? Sure. That would be good, so we could hear it, yeah.
Just a couple things.
Would you identify?
I'm sorry, I'm Brandon King. I'm actually a farmer around the area that they're putting these in at.
Okay.
Do you guys, how do you handle crop damages? Like when you guys drive on a crop, do you guys decide what you guys pay the farmer, or does the farmer decide, or how do you get together with that?
Yeah, so we have a pre-negotiated crop compensation language that goes into the lease with the landowner, and then as that happens, we provide the agreement and assess exactly how much crop was impacted, and then that is paid out. And so we're in the process of, as we finish surveying of the land, then that will all take place. And
Okay. So how soon do you think I will get a check for the beans that were damaged on my property? Well, it's not my property, but the property I'm leasing. Yes, I'm a tenant farmer.
yeah, we're
Brandon is George's son, and I'll be, actually, Bob has asked me to contact all the landowners, and I have, I've talked to your dad, and I actually talked to you on the phone.
Yeah,
And I'll.
several weeks ago. Yeah, a
Bob
few
has
weeks ago.
asked me, instead of getting a, whatever, he's asked me to, he's gonna have me get the papers and bring them out to you. So, I mean, I've been out to the farm, and I've seen what's been cut across there as well as Mr. Irwin. There were several that had crop damages, but we've been in contact with all of them, and they're aware of what's damaged and all that, so I have papers.
I'm aware of the damage. I'm just not aware of how we get paid for it.
As soon as I get it, actually, they are, Ally, you said you were gonna send me, email me a form, so I'll be bringing a form out, and we'll get you.
You'll get me reimbursed, so it's going to be your decision on what I get, reimbursement-wise, or is this going to be something we sit down collectively and talk about, or?
That's all, yep, that'll all happen once we get that form over to you, and it will all be taken care of. We're still finishing that surveying of the land, and so at that point, we assess all of the crop damage and then take care of it all.
And then you guys will decide what I get for reimbursement, instead of me having any decision on it, or?
We'll talk through all of that.
Okay. And then just one quick final note, and this is kind of a little different. Okay, if you guys get these solar panels in, how many people are you going to employ in the county to maintain the farms? Does that make sense to you? Like, say you said 700 acres, is that what I'm?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so how many people would it take to maintain those 700 acres? Like,
So one of the benefits of solar, it is operationally, it is very low maintenance. That solar facility would take 1 to 2 renewable technicians, is what they're called. They would perform ongoing and preventative maintenance on the site, and then we would also have contracts for the maintenance and landscaping of the site.
but those might be on several sites. Those technicians could be on this 700-acre site and one in maybe Randolph County, and they wouldn't be just right now zeroed in. Okay, I'm just wondering. I mean, I employ a couple people in Henry County on my farm, and I just didn't know how many people you guys would employ.
Real quick, so whenever we do an agreement with the
I'm sorry, but I can't hear what Allie or Matt are saying.
I apologize. Go ahead.
No worries.
Go ahead and step in.
So real quick, just to recap, we will be reaching out to this gentleman to discuss the number for the crop damage. The second question was related to full-time employees. So generally speaking, it's going to be between 1 and 3, depending on the size. Again, this is a smaller solar installation for what we're looking at in Indiana. We've got 7 live projects right now where we're working on this. This installation in particular should take 1 to 2 full-time folks, and we always look to hire, whether that's the 300 construction jobs that we're talking about or the full-time jobs that would remain here for the life of the project. So, that come through okay? No,
Yeah, I can hear that. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, you were standing too far away from the mic for me to hear.
Anything else?
That's all my questions.
Jason Masters. So what are you guys going to do with the neighboring farms when you're driving these posts 3 to 6 feet in the ground? And, you know, a lot of these companies have put in the fiber optic lines in the side ditches. You know, they're fly by night. So if you have a tile cut and that fiber optic line's laying in a 10-inch tile, well, then you contact those people back. Well, they file bankruptcy so they can't get sued for it. So are you guys going to be a fly by night when you cut off all my tiles on all these farms you put in, and then I'm left with a buck on my wet farm?
Yeah, so real quick, with any of the drainage agreement, that's going to be something that's in the economic development agreement we would do with the county. So anything that we damage, anything that's damaged because of this project, we cover. And that's going to be in a legal document. Furthermore, when it comes to decommissioning and removing the project or things that would be undone as we start to, you know, as the project would wind down, we have a bond that we'll have with the county that's going to be reassessed in value every 5 years. So we continue our maintenance. We continue to make sure our investment is a good and viable investment. So we're not going to let damage like that happen. Furthermore, we're not a fly-by-night. So Florida Power and Light and NextEra Energy are sister companies. They're owned by NextEra Energy. We're publicly traded. Like I said, we're a Fortune 200 company. Florida Power and Light's been around since 1925. It's one of the largest regulated utilities in the country. So we're not just going to disappear. But if we did, we're still going to have everything bonded and in place to ensure that you're compensated.
Another question. Is everyone treated the same, like price-wise on rent and all that stuff?
That's a good question. So when it comes to the land, it's going to depend on a number of things. So short answer is no. It's going to depend on how much land, where the land is, how much land is usable. So for instance, if you have 500 acres and this gentleman has 500 acres, but you have exclusions that you want, you got a driveway, a barn, a tree stand, you got your swing set and all that kind of stuff, and it's not all contiguous land, that's not as valuable to us because we're not able to use it in that way. We'll still pay you for the land that we can't use, but it's going to be to a lesser amount than if this gentleman has 500 acres that's flat and there's no neighboring properties except for yours and his. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's a scale, but we try to be as fair as we can on that.
Well, I had a landlord that you guys offered $11,000 an acre to. You guys offered me $18,000 an acre, so there's kind of a big spread there that really ain't fair. So I was just wanting to see how fair you guys really are on treating everyone the same.
Right, and that could be because of the land that we switched.
But we came in on the project originally.
You're at 10.
That was fair.
And then 3 months later, you're at 15.
Our research.
I never called you back, and then you were at 18 because you were wanting the 200 and some acres of mine, my dad's, which I'm not doing.
And I'll just say that stuff is all, you know, between each individual, you know, landowner, and it depends on exactly how badly we need land. So that stuff fluctuates, and that is
Me and these 3 guys back here, we're going to farm
negotiations.
our living. We're not taking an easy handout by taking your guys' money. I mean, I don't know how everyone else feels, but that's the way I feel. I mean,
And that's
we
why
all
it's-
got kids, and when our kids grow up in the farm community.
So when we started the project, they did research, and they were saying anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 was fair market value for most of the farmland. So that's where they started off. Then as we started finding out that the farmers wanted more, or the landowners wanted more, then they started up in that. So we went from 11 to, and then when we hit 18 with you,
it's some of the best dirt in Henry County. You're wanting to drive post in. So that's the reason we didn't sell for 18.
I think part of your concern, can Bobby hear me? Can you hear me, Bobby?
I'm getting about every other word. If you could come to a microphone, I'm getting some of it because your voice projects a little bit stronger than Allie's does. And I'm sorry, who are you? I didn't hear your name.
My name is Duff Sturgeon, and
Okay.
I'm the land agent that is actually doing the leasing and the contacting the landowners and that stuff for NextEra.
Uh-huh.
I think part of your concern, you said just a minute ago, was you don't want any damage from erosion or whatever if somebody's tiles are damaged on the neighbors and it causes erosion to your farm.
No, not erosion, drainage.
Drainage, okay.
We pattern on farms, you go up and spend $50
Right,
an acre.
so
An acre is drainage.
Right,
And
I understand that.
Our water flows through this field, you're gonna drive pile lines through. Well, sometimes it takes a year or two of that problem.
That's true. Any damage we do to any farms like the tiles, we're going to repair those just to keep that from happening. But if there is damage, even though you're not participating in this, you call us and we'll assess the damage and take care of it. Because I mean, just because you're not participating in it, we're still going to be responsible, just like county roads and anything else that's damaged. So.
Steve, how many county tiles are on what's supposed around, you know?
It's undetermined. I'm a surveyor, so we'll work with the farmers here within that concern. So if you have a lot of private tiles that we don't control, that's well over all of it.
Yeah, and if you know where your tiles are, you're better than most, because most don't have a clue where their tiles are.
60 feet.
Yeah, most don't even have a clue where their tiles are. And yeah, and it's and you farm quite a bit. I mean, you farm more than your lands. You farm other people's lands. In fact, Fry Lane Farms, I guess and if it's my understanding that they agreed not to do the testing on that until after you harvested the crops. That's what I'm saying. You said that, and we agreed to not do it. So we didn't damage any of your crops.
The problem is, you're not going to tell me what my crops were.
Right.
I market different than what you guys do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way Brandon. You guys drove through his beans, and now you're going to tell him what you're going to pay him. It should be his product.
We're not going to tell him what we're going to pay him. We're going to listen to what he says it's worth and go from there.
I told you guys go on my ground. It's going to be 40,000 acres of farm. You guys go there and do all the pound testing you want. Drive through perfectly good standing corn beans. That's where I'm at.
Okay, I can't hear.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, could somebody speak into the microphone? Because I can't hear a word.
Sorry. Feel free to come up and add anything else, but essentially your county survey is saying that that's something that we'll take all these gentlemen's concerns, all the farmers' concerns, and that's something that's going to be mapped out if we do an agreement and if this gets permitted, so that way we'd ensure that any damage that's done, we would be covering, but also that we could mitigate any damage on the front end to begin with. Is that?
Yeah, and we will probably have some kind of down south, they're having some kind of a warranty put in place. It has to go through lawyers, and it has to go through them, and it has to go through the drainage board. So it's really looked at very closely. I think, Steve, you were down there on negotiations with the other day on the other one. It was very interesting to see what goes through, because we want to protect the farmers. That's our number one concern with drainage. So,
Understood completely. Thank you.
I do have one question. How many times have you put a project up and running and then sold it to somebody else? Can you hear me?
So yes, we have projects in over 26 states. We have solar projects in over 26 states, and That happens at times. Sometimes utilities contract a solar development or a renewable energy project in what is called a build-own transfer, where we build it for them, and then we do sell the rights to the project and then continue to operate it for the lifetime. Now, this project is under a power purchase agreement whereby we would be the owner and operator for the lifetime of the project, but it is different on each and every project.
Okay, thank you.
Can you explain the $23 million in more detail?
Yeah.
You claim the $23 million worth of tax revenue over the life of the project, which is around $770,000 per year. Where does that money come from each year?
Yep. So those tax projections come from an increase in the assessed value of the land. About 95% in that increase comes from personal property improvements, which are the capital expenditure, the dollar amount that is allotted to the value of the panels and the infrastructure added to the property. So, that's an estimate that is based on projections of what that increase in assessed value would be. Nope, that is what the company pays, as that's, our infrastructure, our equipment, so that is what the company is paying.
Okay.
Yes, that is exactly right. That's additional.
So what if we did not raise your property taxes $1,000
I don't think we would get through the assessor without that happening.
How many times have you guys asked for tax abatement on other jobs? Do you go into every county when you do a job and ask for a tax abatement? And is it 100% for 10 years, or do you guys ask for it to be go down percentages every year?
So tax abatements are pretty standard on renewable energy projects and energy projects as a whole. It depends on the agreement and what each project is able to work with the county on. So that's something that we would only receive if it were agreed upon and beneficial to the county and the council. So the mechanism changes in every county. The tenor is often 10 years, but a full abatement for 10 years is not what I have seen frequently. But it depends, because some counties are losing tax base if they have a major development that is shutting down or closing, and they might have a gap in the first few years. So that abatement mechanism actually enables the county to fill a hole and accelerate some of those payments, or what would have been paid in taxes over the course of 10 years, into a 3-year payment or a 4-year. It can front load.
So what happens to your project if you get a 10-year abatement? What happens to you guys after the 10 years are up? Do you continue with the panels, or do you remove the panels after the 10-year abatement's up?
No, we keep them in there. I mean, the project economics are based on the full lifespan of the project, and that's estimated based on what panel manufacturers, assess the lifespan of the panels. So we would be keeping the project. We have an obligation to our customer for 20 years of providing energy. So, the project stands alone after the tenor.
Allie, by the way, I don't know if you've met, this is Debbie Walker, the county auditor. We don't let people just walk up the street and sit down.
Very nice to meet you, Debbie. Yeah.
Can I, real quick? So you would ask about if it's always going to be a tax abatement and a 10-year schedule. We have several projects in Indiana right now, which I just don't want to release names because we're not there yet. But we have some counties that will say no taxes for 10 years, but we want the money as a pilot payment, payment in lieu of taxes up front.
But you can't do that in the state of Indiana anymore.
No, it's all according to tax code, and is, of course, in coordination with our lawyers and the county's lawyers. So it is, the type of structure is definitely within tax law.
Depreciation rate on this? do you have a rapid depreciation rate of your investment, your personal property?
Say that again, I'm sorry. I couldn't
What's your
hear.
depreciation rate?
You have an accelerated depreciation on your investment there.
I'd have to check the tax modeling and get back to you on exactly what the depreciation schedule.
If the value goes down as
Mhm.
years go along, theoretically, in 10 years, you would have no impact. If you have a rapid depreciation of your investment there, your personal property.
Where's the generating power?
Mhm. Yeah, I'd have to get back to you and talk through the specifics of what that looks like.
That ties into this gentleman's question back there, I think.
He wants you to, Martin wants him to let him know what the depreciation is so that it answers JR's question.
Sure.
Does Henry County have a tax cap on our property taxes? Like, so can we really take an extra $700,000 each year over what we already take, or we have to?
We have state of Indiana has a tax cap. We all have a tax cap on everything.
We're not going to see a $700,000 increase. We're just going to get the money from a different pool than, I mean, our property taxes are going to go down, but your base that you get to pay for things out of stays the same. So
That's basically the way I understand it. It's not really a big win for the county. It just sounds good on paper.
And that's why that economic development agreement is a structure that counties often prefer. It allows them to have a pool of funds that has less strings attached, and it's a viable mechanism for that. Otherwise, it's, we are covering that, incremental amount of tax revenue, and landowners wouldn't be covering it.
I didn't fully understand your 10-year abatement. So if you was to get the 10-year abatement that you would like, what does that reduce the $23 million back to?
That it changes in every county. Every agreement's different, and it depends on what the county officials want to negotiate. That's
JR, most of the time they come in with the first year at 100%, and it goes down 10% each year.
For the economic development, Debbie, is that what you're talking about?
No, they ask about the tax abatement.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
I mean,
Most families here, that's when they could potentially be getting hurt during construction, and we have services going out there too. That would be hard to get them that first year. And the county's got to pay for an ambulance going out, the county's got to pay for police officers to go out and direct traffic. And first year abatement, that would not be the year, if any.
Well, we will have, I'm sure, several opportunities before this project would ever get approved to ask more questions. I think we've got a few questions answered tonight. I'm sure there'll be some hearings as this goes along in the process, and as of right now, we still do not have a solar ordinance, so we've got to.
Well, I'll correct you, Ed. We do have a solar ordinance. It just states that there is a moratorium on commercial solar. So yes, Henry County does have a solar ordinance. It just states there is a moratorium on commercial solar.
I stand corrected. We have currently a moratorium on solar anyway until we can pass a revision of our solar ordinance. So we'll have plenty of opportunities in the future to ask questions. Thank you, Ally. Thank you.
And let me jump in real quick, Ed. I know that's the last thing on the list, but I had told Travis that I would get him on the itinerary. He was supposed to be on the itinerary last month, and we didn't get it. The documents didn't get to us in time, and I dropped the ball and didn't get him on the itinerary for this month. So I would ask that we allow him to speak, if that's okay, because I'm the one that dropped the ball getting him on the itinerary.
Travis White?
Yes, Travis White.
Certainly. Come up and speak.
Travis White.
And I apologize. I apologize, Travis. That was my fault.
It happens.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm speaking on behalf of the Henry County Veterans Museum, and we had sent a request to the commissioners, and I hope you guys got that letter, and if not, I can email it back out. But the request is we would like permission to convert the extra unused restroom in the lower level of the Smith Building into a usable office and storage space for the Veterans Museum. With the commissioner's approval, we would remove the plumbing fixtures and cap off the lines. We will also remove the wooden stalls and other restroom features and then set the room up as an office. The Smith Building went under renovation, and as part of that renovation process, this second unused restroom was cut from renovation. So it's still the original 1940s, 50s design. It's unused. It's disgusting. We wouldn't have anybody use it. And to bring it up to ADA standards would cost thousands of dollars for the county, and we're not asking for that. We have a perfectly good restroom in the museum as part of the renovation. So what we just want permission from the commissioners to do, since it is county property, is to consider allowing us at our expense, at the county, Henry County Veterans Museum's expense, to just have the work done to make it not a bathroom anymore, and then we would turn it into a just an office for us. And that's what the request is. I'm not asking necessarily for any action tonight, especially since we weren't on the agenda and we've already been here a couple hours, but for you guys to consider that. As the museum, we are seeking grants to help cover those costs. It would probably be beneficial if we could say that the commissioners have already approved it rather than asking for money and then not being able to use it at all.
Okay. Our next meeting is on the 8th, which is only,
Right.
not too far away. So, and I have looked at that bathroom and walked around there, and I would like a chance to discuss. So I'm also on the Veterans Museum Board, and I would like a chance to talk over the possibilities and also talk it over with my fellow commissioners, and then we will probably have a decision on the 8th. So at this time.
Well, I think, Ed, you need to make a motion to table it, and I don't believe that we can discuss it outside of a public meeting. So we'll have to discuss it next meeting.
That'd be
With
fine.
if you make a motion to table it.
Yes, I will make a motion to table it for now, and we will either take action or discuss it at the next meeting.
I appreciate that. And if you guys don't have a copy of this, if everyone hasn't gotten a copy, I can email a copy out to all three commissioners so that you can see the letter itself.
I believe I do have it, Travis.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize for it was my blunder.
Okay. Thank you for the time.
Do I have a second on the motion to table this?
Second.
I vote in favor of tabling this until the next meeting. Commissioner Dellinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Plummer?
Aye.
Motion to table the request to modify the bathroom into an office in the Smith Building basement will be tabled until the next meeting by a vote of 3-0. Any other public comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I vote also to adjourn the meeting. Commissioner Plummer,
Aye.
Commissioner Dellinger.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn passes 3-0. Thank you. Bobby just must have